it's interesting to me. It looks like every day when I go online or go to social, there's a new podcast every day of people who just set up with a microphone and start talking.
And what's interesting about that, there's now millions of podcasts, right? I think there's estimates of 4 million or so that are on Spotify right now. But what's kind of crazy about that is it's still just a drop in the bucket when you compare it to other forms of content creation like blogs or YouTube channels or things like that, where there's hundreds of millions. So there's a sense that people have, it's like, oh, well, I'm late to the podcast game. It's too late for me to get started. There's no way that I'm going to have success with one. And it's really still just a very small slice when you compare it to the other types of things that people are doing in that creator economy.
Wow.
So there's still lots of opportunity to find a niche that you fit, an audience that you speak to.
Mm-hmm. So how do podcasters, I guess, know that they're successful? Is it listenership? Is it primarily that? Or
that's kind of a vanity metrics, but it depends on what your goals are. So some businesses might go, I don't need to create a podcast to get clients for my business, but maybe they've got 1,000 employees that are spread out all over the country. And I'm talking to one company right now that's wanting to launch a podcast for this very reason. The CEO is used to sending out just those form emails that you get that most people just hit delete right away. Doesn't really have that human connection. But what they want to do is they're saying, hey, a podcast would be a great way to kind of create that human connection between the top level leadership of a company and the lower level. So they don't necessarily care about, growing subscribers or things like that. It's a way to create connections between others. It's a way to create trust between others. So some companies might say, I've got to sell advertising. That's going to be my way. I've got to get a lot of listeners so I can do that. You might be a business coach and you're like, I need to create a podcast to get clients. And you don't need 100,000 subscribers. You just need 10 that are going to be devoted, and then they become your clients. And that's enough to sustain your business. So it kind of varies from the type of person who's creating the podcast, what goals they would set. And that's honestly one of the first things I always ask somebody when they're seeking me for a consultation. It's like, well, what do you want to do? What's the best outcome for your podcast?
Yeah, that's always interesting to me because some people, they are becoming very popular podcasts, right? But some people, when they listen, they still don't know, am I listening to a radio segment? Am I listening to, what is this? And, some podcasts now have video, as we do. Some of it do both the entire time, right? So what are the different dynamics of podcasts? Can you kind of explain that?
Right. So podcasts kind of fill this interesting intermediate spot in content creation, right? Because everybody's used to YouTube videos or social media content like TikToks. It's got to be short. It's got to be very dynamic and engaging and really capture your attention right away. Podcasts are actually designed to be much longer, right? You're generating trust over time. I would imagine that most of the listeners of this podcast right now start to feel like they know the two of you. They know your personality. They feel like they can already trust you. So it's a different type of relationship that you have with the creators and the hosts of those podcasts than you would with, say, a YouTube video where it's just a couple minutes. You're only going to get somebody's attention for a short period of time. The other advantage that podcasts have is that it can be passively consumed. Since you don't necessarily need their eyeballs if it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can listen to it in the car. You can listen to it while you're doing chores or working out at the gym. You can engage somebody wherever they're at kind of on demand. So it's kind of like that value-added radio, that educational component that you can have wherever you want, whatever's most convenient, and roll with that, and then kind of create that long-term relationship with your listeners.
I love that.